So for today, I will be discussing the derivation for the half-angle identities for sine, cosine, and tangent. So mag-start muna tayo sa half-angle identity ng sine. So previously sa ating video, kung na-derive natin yung double angle identity ng cosine, which is cosine 2 theta is equal to 1 minus sine squared theta. So dito yung pagsisimulan natin. Dito manggagaling yung kung paano na-derive yung half-angle identity ng sine. So if I will let 2 theta is equal to x, so therefore the theta now will become x over 2. Or pwede rin yung x, gawin ko lang yan theta kasi nga identity na to. So hindi na siya mababago. So hindi na yan mababago kung gawin ko tong x na theta. But try naman natin yung ibang variable. So x over 2. So I will replace now the theta by x over 2. So ito na yung ating expression. And then, by simplifying it further, ililipat ko kasi yung hinahanap natin dito is half-angle identity ng sine. So I will replace the negative 2 sine squared x over 2 to the left side, and then yung cosine 2x over 2 sa right side. So bale matanggal muna yung 2 dito, which is magiging cosine x is equal to 1 minus 2 sine squared x over 2, and then by using algebraic manipulation, 2 sine squared x over 2 will become 1 minus cosine of x, and then I will multiply the both sides of the equation by 1/2, and yung sa left side matatanggal yung 2, and sa right side multiply ko yan ng 1/2. Bale ito na. And di pa tayo tapos, since may square pa yung sine sa left side, kung makikita nyo, sine squared x over 2. So para matanggal yan, I will take the square root of the both sides of the equation. And then, matatanggal na yung square niya, magiging ganito na. Sine of x over 2 is equal to square root of 1 minus cosine of x over 2. Kaya nakaderive na tayo ng half-angle identity ng sine. So, what about the half-angle identity for cosine? So, cosine, sa double angle identity ulit siya ng cosine, but yung isang identity which is cosine 2 theta is equal to 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. So, kung di nyo pa napapanood kung paano na-derive tong identity na to, you can visit the playlist sa channel na to, which is hanapin nyo lang yung Trigonometry, and then yun na. So, gagawin din natin ulit yung ginawa natin kanina. We let 2 theta is equal to x, and the theta now will become x over 2. So, I will substitute that to theta, and then magiging ganito na. So, matatanggal yung 2 sa right side, sa left side, and magiging ganito na. And then, since half-angle identity ng cosine ang hinahanap natin dito, so ililipat ko tong 2 cosine squared x over 2 sa left, and then yung cosine x sa right. So, pali mo, algebraic manipulation na lang. Negative 2 cosine squared of x over 2 is equal to negative 1 minus cosine of x. So, I'll multiply both sides of the equation. Bago ko pala yun gawin, I will factor out yung negative 1 minus cosine x. Ilalabas ko yung negative. So, balang magiging ganito na. And then, I will multiply it now by negative 1/2 the both sides of the equation. So, matanggal yung negative 2 dyan. And then, yung nasa right side, mamumultiply siya ng negative 1/2. So, the expression now will be look like this. And then, may square ulit yung cosine. So, I will remove that by squaring the both sides of the equation. Eh, matatanggal na yung square ng cosine. And then, ito na, cosine of x over 2 is equal to the square root of 1 plus cosine of x over 2. So, ito na yung half angle identity ng cosine. So, what about the half angle identity for tangent? So, bale dito, tatlo yung identity na makukuha natin. So, umpisahan muna natin dun sa una. So, the half angle identity for tangent. So, we have another identity in trigonometric functions that tangent of the angle is equal to sine of the angle over cosine of the angle. And i-apply ko siya dito sa tangent of x over 2. So, ganyan. And then, previously, na-derive na natin yung half angle identity ng sine, which is this, and then yung half angle identity ng cosine, which is this. So, bale, I can just substitute now the sine of x over 2 and a cosine of x over 2 to the expression to this expression. So, ito, sine, cosine to this, sine, cosine. So, if I will replace now that, ito na siya. And then, kung isi-simplify pa natin to, so, sa properties ng radicals, may property tayong ganito, which is square root of a over square root of b is equal to square root of a over b. Kung i-apply ko yan dito sa expression na to, magiging ganito na. And then, we have another property sa rational expressions na a over b over c over d is equal to a over b times d over c. So, kung i-apply ko lang yan dito, magiging ganito na yung expression. Then, as you can see, matatanggal yung 2. So, the expression now will look like this. And then, that's it. Ito na yung unang identity, half angle identity ng tangent natin. So, yung dalawa, so dito lang yun manggagaling. So, ang gagawin lang natin is i-multiply natin yung both the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate. So, by its conjugate. So, yung unang conjugate muna yung sa denominator muna yung kukunin natin. So, bale, ito yung gagamitin natin. So, yung conjugate nitong denominator, which is 1 plus cosine of x, ang conjugate niyan ay 1 minus cosine x. Pag sinabi natin conjugate, papalitan lang natin yung sign. So, papalitan lang natin yung sign. So, bali, magiging 1 minus cosine x. So, both natin i-multiply. So, ganyan na. So, take note that if 1 minus cosine x divided by 1 minus cosine x will just be equal to 1. So, hindi maapektuhan nitong value na to. Kung i-simplify ko pa yan, this will become 1 minus cosine x times 1 minus cosine x is 1 minus cosine x, the quantity of 1 minus cosine x raised to 2. And then the 1 plus cosine x, and then the 1 minus cosine x, if I will multiply that, that is the product of sum and difference. So, ang gagawin lang dyan, i-square ko yung 1, and then yung sign negative, and then i-square ko yung cosine. This will be look like this. And as you can see, itong 1 minus cosine squared of x, mapapansin mo, pwede mo gamitin dito yung Pythagorean identities. Sine squared x plus cosine squared x is equal to 1 kung by basic algebra. Sine squared x is equal to 1 minus cosine of squared x. So if I will replace the 1 minus cosine squared x here, so magiging sine squared x na yung nasa baba. And then, by simplifying this expression, so bali matatanggal na yung square root and then yung square dito and then yung square dito. Bali, ito na siya. 1 minus cosine of x over sine of x. So we just derive another half angle identity for tangent. Now, magagawa pa tayo ng isang half angle identity ng tangent. So gamit ulit yung nauna nating na generate na identity, which is this. So i-multiply naman natin yung both numerator and the denominator by the conjugate naman nitong numerator. So yung conjugate ng numerator, 1 minus cosine x is 1 plus cosine x. So, as I've said, yung conjugate pinapalitan lang yung sign. And then ang conjugate pala na-apply lang sa two terms, which is a binomial. So, if I will multiply now the both numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the numerator, so this will become like this. Then, isi-simplify pa natin. So, 1 minus cosine x times 1 plus cosine x. So, this is the product of sum and difference. So, i-square ko lang yung first term and i-square ko lang yung second term, which is this. So, 1 squared is just 1 and then cosine is square and cosine squared x. And then 1 plus cosine of x sa denominator times 1 plus cosine of x is the quantity of the square of 1 plus cosine x. And then, sa Pythagorean identities again, sine squared x plus cosine squared x is equal to 1. Yung sine squared x magiging 1 minus cosine squared x, and then I will replace now that to the numerator, and then the numerator will become sine squared x. So, kung i-simplify ko ba to, yung square niyan, matatanggal niyan because of the square root of square root. Nakapaloob siya sa square root. So, this will become sine x over 1 plus cosine of x. So, there you have it. You have another half angle identity for tangent. Now, these are now the half angle identities na na-generate natin. So, take note that pwede mong palitan na yung s nyan, pwede mo yung gawin ulit na theta. Because as I've said, ang identity, kahit anong gawin mo na dyan, as long as the angles are the same. So, pwede mong palitan yung x ng ibang variable. So, sino ba nagsabing hindi pwedeng palitan ng x? So, pinapalitan yan. So, pwede mong gawin dito theta, kung gusto mo theta, or whatsoever. So, yun lang. This is Jules those tutorials. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you.